By the ancient laws and the whispers of the divine, a sign has been given unto us.
Hey guys, tonight we're diving into a truly bizarre corner of human history. A practice so strange and unsettling that it almost defies belief. Imagine a world where the concept of masculinity, of fatherhood itself, could be twisted into a tool of public humiliation and ritualistic punishment. You find yourself standing on dusty, sun-baked earth, the air thick with the scent of dry straw and a faint, acrid tang you can't quite place. Around you, hushed whispers ripple through a crowd, their faces a mix of curiosity, morbid fascination, and a chilling sort of understanding. You're aware of rough, homespun fabrics brushing against your skin, the weight of a heavy, unfamiliar garment settling onto your shoulders. The low murmur of chanting begins, a rhythmic drone that seems to vibrate in your very bones. You glance down at your hands, calloused from a life of labor, and a shiver traces its way up your spine. This isn't just a story. This is an experience you probably wouldn't survive, a dark echo from a time when justice, or what passed for it, took on truly grotesque forms. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Comment your city and local time. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You feel a prod in your back, urging you forward. The ground is uneven beneath your bare feet, each step kicking up fine dust that tickles your nostrils. You are a man, strong and capable, yet in this moment, a profound sense of helplessness washes over you. The crowd parts, revealing a makeshift altar, rough-hewn from unpolished stone. On it rests an array of strange objects, dried gourds, woven baskets, and a bundle of what appears to be matted animal hair. You try to recall how you came to this place, but the memories are hazy, fragmented by fear and a disorienting sense of unreality. You know only that you stand accused, not of a crime against another person, but of an offense against the very order of things, a disruption of nature's delicate balance. In ancient societies, particularly those deeply reliant on agriculture and the continuation of lineage, fertility was paramount. A king's inability to produce an heir or a community's struggle with barren land wasn't merely a personal misfortune. It was often interpreted as a divine curse, a sign of cosmic displeasure. To appease the gods or to symbolically rectify the perceived imbalance, extreme measures were sometimes taken. You are about to become part of such a measure. You are, in essence, a scapegoat, chosen to absorb the perceived infertility and, through a grotesque imitation of life, purge it from the community. A strange, almost forgotten detail of these ancient fertility rites is the belief in sympathetic magic, where mimicking an action was thought to bring about the desired result. If a community suffered from barrenness, forcing a man to bear a child was believed to somehow kickstart the natural world's own fertility. It's a logic warped by desperation and superstition, but a potent one in its time. As you approach the altar, figures in ceremonial robes, their faces obscured by masks of woven straw, begin to chant louder. Their voices are low, guttural, a sound that vibrates in your chest. You see their hands moving, sprinkling something from small pouches onto the altar, a fine white powder that catches the weak light. The air grows heavier, charged with an unsettling energy. You want to resist, to run, but your limbs feel sluggish, weighed down by an invisible burden. This isn't just physical constraint. It's a psychological one, a complete immersion into a terrifying narrative that has been constructed around you. You are no longer just yourself. You are a vessel, a living symbol in a bizarre drama. The murmurs from the crowd intensify, and you can feel their collective gaze, 1,000 eyes piercing through your forced calm. You know instinctively that there is no escape from this ritual. Your role has been cast, and the performance must begin. You are led to a small enclosed hut, its walls woven from thick reeds and its roof thatched with dry grass. The air inside is still and warm, carrying the faint, earthy smell of the materials. Two masked figures, silent and imposing, follow you in. There is no furniture, only a raised platform covered with coarse blankets in the center. They gesture for you to lie down, and a chill runs down your spine. This is where the true isolation begins. You are to be separated from the world, cut off from all familiar sounds and sights. Your senses dulled until your mind can be reshaped to accept the grim reality of your new condition. For days, perhaps weeks, you lose all track of time within this confined space. Your meals are brought to you by silent attendants, pushed through a small opening in the wall. The food is bland, mostly gruel and dried berries, offering just enough sustenance to keep you from weakening too much. The lack of varied stimulation, the constant dimness, and the unyielding quiet begin to work on your mind. You find yourself listening intently to the subtle sounds of the hut, the rustle of the reeds in a faint breeze, the scuttling of unseen insects in the thatch, the slow drip of water from a crack in the roof during a rare rain shower. Your thoughts, once a tumultuous flood of fear and anger, slowly begin to dissipate, replaced by a strange, unsettling quietude. This period of forced isolation, a common thread in many ancient rituals, served a very specific purpose: to break down the individual's sense of self and prepare them for a new identity. By stripping away all external comforts and distractions, the mind becomes more susceptible to suggestion, more open to the bizarre narrative being imposed upon it. You are, in essence, being prepared for your symbolic transformation. One fascinating detail about some ancient isolation practices is the deliberate use of sensory deprivation. Not only were initiates cut off from light and sound, but in some cases, their sense of smell was dulled with specific herbs, and their bodies were rubbed with certain oils to alter tactile sensations. It was an all-encompassing attack on the senses, designed to induce an altered state of consciousness. You spend hours staring at the patterns on the reed walls, patterns that begin to shift and swirl in the dim light, taking on a life of their own. Sometimes you imagine faces in the shadows, whispering taunts or forgotten memories. Sleep, when it comes, is fitful and shallow, plagued by vivid, unsettling dreams that blur the line between reality and the bizarre fictions your mind is now conjuring. You remember fragments of conversations you once had, the faces of loved ones, the scent of a wood fire in your own home. But these memories feel distant, almost as if they belong to another person, another life. The masked figures occasionally enter the hut, moving with a silent solemnity that only adds to your growing apprehension. They do not speak, but their presence is a heavy weight in the small space. They observe you, their eyes, visible through the slits in their masks, unreadable. Sometimes they perform strange rituals, scattering herbs on the floor, burning pungent incense that fills the hut with a thick, choking smoke. You cough, your eyes water, but you make no move to resist. Your will, once so strong, feels like a fragile thread, stretched almost to breaking point. You are a captive not just of the hut, but of the pervasive, inescapable belief system that surrounds you. You are becoming a vessel, ready to be filled with the strange, dark purpose that awaits. One morning, the masked figures return, but this time they carry bundles of coarse, tightly woven cloth and thick ropes. Your stomach clenches. This is it. They approach you, their movements deliberate and unhurried. You lie still, a strange mix of dread and resignation settling over you. They begin by wrapping your lower abdomen with layers of the rough fabric, binding it tightly, meticulously. Each layer adds to the pressure, a constricting force that presses in on your diaphragm, making each breath a conscious effort. You feel your ribs protesting, your internal organs shifting under the relentless pressure. As they work, they chant in low, rhythmic tones, a steady, hypnotic hum that seems to vibrate through the tightly wound cloth. They are creating your womb, a symbolic cavity designed to mimic the burgeoning belly of a pregnant woman. This isn't just about physical discomfort. It's about psychological manipulation. The constant pressure, the feeling of something growing within you, is meant to trick your mind, to force it to accept the bizarre reality they are imposing. You feel a strange phantom fullness, a peculiar ache where there should be none. A well-known aspect of historical punishment and ritual, particularly in more primitive societies, is the use of physical discomfort and pain to achieve psychological submission. By creating an unbearable, inescapable physical sensation, the will of the individual can be slowly eroded, making them more compliant to the demands of the ritual. Furthermore, an unusual detail from certain ancient practices involved the incorporation of specific, often pungent, herbs or animal fats rubbed into the bindings. These substances were believed to further enhance the magical effect, or to induce a mild hallucinogenic state, making the wearer even more susceptible to the illusion of internal change. You can almost smell a faint, musky odor now, perhaps from a salve rubbed into the inner layers of the bindings. The ropes come next. They are woven intricately around the fabric, crisscrossing your chest and abdomen, drawing the binding even tighter. You gasp for air, a short, sharp intake, but they pay you no heed. The pressure becomes almost unbearable, a constant, dull ache that spreads through your entire torso. You feel as though your very breath is being stolen from you, each exhalation a struggle against the relentless constriction. Your muscles begin to cramp, your body fighting against the unnatural posture forced upon it by the bindings. As the days turn into nights, and then back into days within your isolated hut, the pressure never relents. You find it difficult to lie comfortably, to find any position that offers relief. Eating becomes a chore, the food pressing against your constricted stomach, threatening to make you nauseous. Sleep is even more elusive, your body constantly reminding you of its unnatural state. Your mind, once a battleground of resistance, slowly begins to surrender. The phantom fullness intensifies, and sometimes, in the hazy borderland between waking and sleeping, you could almost believe it. Believe that something is growing within you. A strange, dark parody of life. You are becoming the embodiment of their curse, a living, breathing symbol of the community's need for fertility. The day finally arrives when you are removed from your solitary confinement. The masked figures, more imposing now in your weakened state, lead you out of the hut. The sudden rush of bright sunlight after days of dimness assaults your eyes, making you blink and squint. You are disoriented, your senses overwhelmed by the open air, the distant sounds of the village, and the feeling of firm earth beneath your feet. But it's the crowd that truly jolts you. They are waiting, a silent, expectant throng, their faces a blur of anticipation. You are no longer just a man, you are a spectacle. The tightly bound fabric around your abdomen, now more accustomed to your form, creates a grotesque parody of pregnancy. You can feel the eyes of the villagers upon you, their gazes dissecting every inch of your bound body. There's pity in some eyes, yes, but mostly there's a chilling blend of curiosity and satisfaction. You are a public display of their beliefs, a living testament to their desperate hopes for fertility. You are led to a central clearing where a raised platform has been erected. This is your stage. A prominent feature of many ancient punishments was the element of public humiliation, designed not just to punish the individual, but to reinforce societal norms and deter others. By making the suffering visible, the message was broadcast to the entire community. A less commonly known detail, but one sometimes found in accounts of public shaming rituals, is the incorporation of specific vocalizations or cries the performer was expected to make. These weren't spontaneous expressions of pain, but preordained sounds, further transforming personal agony into a ritualistic performance. You can already feel the pressure building in your throat, a silent instruction to soon emit a sound you've never uttered before. You are positioned on the platform, facing the silent crowd. The sun beats down on you, making the sweat trickle down your temples, mixing with the dust on your skin. The bindings feel even tighter in the heat, chafing against your skin, threatening to suffocate you. The masked figures circle the platform, chanting now, their voices rising and falling in a mournful, hypnotic rhythm. You are instructed, through a series of gestures, to walk slowly around the perimeter of the platform, to present your condition to the assembled villagers. Each step is an effort, your balance precarious with the unnatural bulge of the bindings. As you shuffle around, you hear whispers from the crowd, muffled by the chanting of the masked figures. You catch glimpses of their expressions. Wide-eyed children, stern-faced elders, young women with hopeful yet fearful glances. You are a mirror reflecting their deepest desires and their darkest fears. You are the embodiment of their communal struggle against barrenness, a living sacrifice to their hopes for bountiful harvests and numerous offspring. The humiliation is profound, deeper than any physical pain. It strips away your dignity, reduces you to a symbol, an object lesson. You feel exposed, vulnerable, every nerve ending screaming under the weight of their collective gaze. You are performing, not just for the community, but for the very gods they believe control their destiny, a grotesque mime of creation. Back in the hut, or perhaps a similar one, the rhythm of your days shifts. The masked figures are more present now, not just bringing meager meals, but also strange concoctions. You are given bitter liquids to drink, sometimes thick and cloudy, other times thin and clear, each with a distinct, often unpleasant taste. They tell you, through a series of gestures and low murmurs you've come to understand as instructions, that these are nourishments for the life within you. You are to consume them without question, for the sake of the symbolic growth you embody. You force them down, the liquids often making your stomach churn, but you dare not refuse. You are also given strange, dried fruits and coarse grains, different from your usual gruel. This diet, restrictive and purposeful, further isolates you from any semblance of normal life. Your senses are dulled by the constant pressure of the bindings, the unchanging routine, and now, the peculiar tastes and textures of your enforced diet. Your body feels alien, no longer entirely your own, but a vessel for this strange, imagined burden. A common thread in many historical rituals, especially those involving initiation or transformation, is the strict control over diet and the administration of specific substances, sometimes even psychoactive ones. This was often believed to purify the body, open the mind to spiritual influence, or simply to induce an altered physical state that aided in the ritual's purpose. A peculiar, lesser-known detail is that some cultures incorporated sympathetic foods into these diets, items whose appearance or perceived properties were thought to mirror the desired outcome. For your pregnancy, this might mean being given round, seed-filled gourds or plump berries, visually reinforcing the idea of gestation and fertility. You begin to notice subtle changes within yourself, or perhaps your mind simply wills them into existence. The phantom fullness in your abdomen seems to grow, a dull throb that becomes a constant companion. Sometimes, when you are very still, you imagine you can feel a subtle shifting, a faint tremor, within the tightly bound cloth. You tell yourself it's merely your imagination, the pressure of the bindings, the rumbling of your empty stomach. But the whispers of your captors, the solemnity of their actions, and the desperate hopes in the eyes of the villagers start to erode your certainty. You find yourself observing your body with a detached curiosity, almost as if it belongs to someone else. You trace the outlines of the bindings with your fingers, feeling the coarse texture of the cloth, the unyielding pressure. Your sleep is still disturbed, but now your dreams are filled with strange, amorphous shapes, sensations of burgeoning weight, and the silent, expectant faces of the masked figures. You are caught in a waking dream, a bizarre delusion cultivated by isolation, diet, and the relentless psychological assault. You are becoming what they intend you to be, a living testament to a strange and terrible belief, a man forced to bear the weight of a community's desperate hope. As your bizarre pregnancy progresses, you begin to understand the deeper layers of belief that underpin this horrifying ritual. The whispers you hear from outside your hut, the hushed conversations among the masked figures, all point to a profound societal anxiety. In this ancient world, the concept of lineage and the continuation of the family name was not just important, it was a spiritual imperative. A barren woman or a man unable to sire children was not merely unfortunate. They were often seen as cursed, or even as a threat to the community's survival. The very notion of fertility was intertwined with cosmic harmony, with the blessings of unseen forces. You learn, through fragmented observations and the occasional heavily symbolic explanation, that your enforced gestation is meant to be a reversal, a purification. You are taking on the community's barrenness, their perceived lack of vital life force, and through this forced, unnatural process, you are meant to expel it, clearing the way for new life to flourish. It's a desperate act of magical thinking, born from a fundamental misunderstanding of biological processes, yet deeply rooted in their worldview. A fascinating aspect of ancient fertility cults, particularly in agricultural societies, was the veneration of chthonic deities, gods and goddesses associated with the underworld and the earth's regenerative powers. These deities were often invoked during planting seasons and harvest times, and rituals designed to ensure fertility were central to their worship. A more obscure yet compelling detail is the practice of simulated childbirth among certain ancient shamans or healers. In these instances, the ritual was performed by a male not as a punishment, but as a symbolic act of spiritual rebirth or healing for the community, often involving trance states and elaborate performances. You, however, are offered no such spiritual elevation, only the weight of collective fear. The masked figures begin to speak more openly of the child you are carrying, referring to it in veiled terms as the seed of barrenness or the shadow of the blight. They tell you that as it grows within you, so too will the land begin to awaken, the fields become fertile, and the women of the village conceive. You are a living barometer of their hopes, a vessel for their anxieties. The pressure to succeed in this grotesque charade weighs heavily upon you, adding another layer to the physical discomfort of the bindings. You find yourself almost praying for the birth to come, for this absurd, torturous period to end. The distinction between what is real and what is forced upon you blurs even further. You are starved of rational interaction, constantly immersed in the ritual's narrative. You begin to interpret every slight improvement in your surroundings. A slightly warmer day, the sound of distant birdsong, as a sign of the child's influence, a perverse confirmation of the ritual's efficacy. You are becoming not just a participant, but a believer in the delusion, if only to preserve your sanity in the face of such overwhelming absurdity. The physical strain of your forced pregnancy intensifies with each passing day. The bindings, once merely constricting, now feel like an unyielding cage around your torso. Your muscles ache constantly, unused to the persistent pressure and the strange, unnatural posture you are forced to maintain. Your back suffers, a dull, nagging pain that radiates up your spine and into your shoulders. Even when you are allowed to rest, true comfort is elusive. Sleep offers little reprieve, as the pressure makes it difficult to breathe deeply, leading to restless nights filled with half-formed nightmares. You find yourself instinctively guarding your belly, a strange protective gesture born from the constant sensation of internal pressure. Eating becomes a struggle. Every mouthful feels like it's pushing against the unyielding fabric, threatening to force its way back up. Your body, once strong and resilient, feels brittle, on the verge of collapsing under the sustained duress. The exhaustion is profound, a deep weariness that settles into your bones, making every movement an immense effort. The practice of sustained physical discomfort as a means of ritualistic or punitive control is a common thread throughout human history, often used to induce states of altered consciousness or to break an individual's will. Whether through forced postures, prolonged fasting, or, as in your case, binding, the body becomes a tool for psychological manipulation. A curious, though perhaps less obvious detail often associated with such prolonged physical duress is the body's own remarkable ability to adapt, even to pain. While agony is constant, the mind might begin to filter some of it out, or to find small, almost imperceptible shifts in position that offer momentary, fleeting relief, becoming hyper-aware of these tiny changes. You find yourself seeking these micro-adjustments, a constant, subtle dance against the binding's embrace. Beyond the purely physical, the mental strain is perhaps even more insidious. You are constantly on edge, waiting for the next instruction, the next strange liquid, the next public display. The fear of failure, of not adequately fulfilling your grotesque role, gnaws at you. The belief system of your captors has seeped into your consciousness, subtly twisting your perception of reality. You question your own memories, your own identity. Are you truly a man carrying nothing but air and cloth? Or has the ritual, through some dark magic, truly implanted something within you? You begin to talk to yourself in hushed whispers, a desperate attempt to maintain a connection to your former self, to the world you once knew. Sometimes, you even address the phantom presence within you, pleading with it to hasten its arrival, to release you from this torment. The days blend into an indistinguishable stream of discomfort and delusion. You are trapped not just by ropes and fabric, but by a narrative so pervasive, so deeply believed by those around you, that it threatens to consume your very sanity. You are a prisoner within your own body, forced to endure a parody of life, hoping desperately for the moment when this strange, dark gestation will finally end. Then, after what feels like an eternity, the masked figures enter your hut with a different air. Their movements are more animated, their low chants infused with an almost celebratory tone. You sense a shift, an impending culmination. This is it. The day of the birth has arrived. You are led out once more, but this time, the journey is different. You are taken not to the central clearing, but to a secluded part of the sacred grove, a place where ancient trees with gnarled roots stand like silent sentinels. A small, carefully prepared hollow in the earth awaits, lined with soft moss and fragrant leaves. It looks almost like a nest. You are instructed to lie down within it. The familiar pressure of the bindings now accompanied by a surge of nervous energy. The masked figures gather around you, their chanting rising in intensity. You can hear the distant sounds of the village, a faint murmur that suggests the community is aware of this pivotal moment, even if they are not directly witnessing it. Historically, many ancient cultures incorporated symbolic birth rituals, not just for actual childbirth, but for initiations, spiritual rebirths, or the metaphorical renewal of a community or a leader. These ceremonies often involved specific locations believed to hold sacred power, such as groves, caves, or natural springs, enhancing the ritual's perceived efficacy. A particularly unsettling yet fascinating detail of some of these symbolic birthing rituals is the use of specific incantations or sounds, sometimes mimicking animal calls associated with birth, to further draw out the desired outcome. You hear now, interspersed with the human chanting, a series of low moans and grunts, almost animalistic, from the masked figures, intensifying the strange atmosphere. The figures begin to work on the bindings, not loosening them, but applying pressure at specific points, mimicking the contractions of labor. You feel pushes and pulls, a rhythmic tightening and releasing that is both physically agonizing and psychologically disorienting. You groan, a sound that escapes your lips unbidden, and the masked figures respond with their own guttural cries, urging you on. You are expected to play your part, to truly embody the struggle of childbirth, to give life to their collective hope. As the climax approaches, the pressure becomes immense. You writhe on the mossy bed, sweat plastering your hair to your forehead. The world narrows to the sensation of the bindings, the rhythmic pressure, and the chanting voices. You push, instinctively, against the imagined burden, your body responding to the long-held delusion. And then, with a final desperate surge of effort, the figures abruptly loosen a strategic section of the bindings. Something, a carefully prepared bundle of cloth, perhaps a hollow gourd, is quickly, almost imperceptibly, pulled from beneath the loosened fabric and placed with a flourish into the hollow beside you. It's over. The birth has happened. A wave of exhaustion washes over you, leaving you weak and trembling, but also with a strange, fleeting sense of release. The moment of birth brings not freedom, but a new phase of your ordeal. You are helped from the mossy hollow, the loosened bindings, a sudden, almost jarring lightness against your skin. Yet the sense of profound relief is short-lived. The masked figures now present the child, the bundle of cloth or gourd, to you, urging you to acknowledge it, to perform the role of a father to this symbolic offspring of barrenness. You gaze at the inert object, a hollow mockery of life, and a wave of bitterness washes over you. You have endured this humiliation, this physical and mental torment for this. You are then led back towards the village, but your position is irrevocably altered. The celebratory chanting of the masked figures continues, but the atmosphere from the crowd is different now. While there is still an element of relief, a sense of an onerous burden lifted, there's also an undercurrent of continued ostracism. You are no longer merely a participant in a ritual. You are a living embodiment of the community's past misfortune, forever marked by the peculiar punishment you have undergone. In many ancient societies, rituals of purification or atonement, even after their completion, often left an indelible social stigma on the individual. The person, having embodied a negative aspect for the community, was rarely fully reintegrated to their former status. A fascinating, if bleak, detail regarding the aftermath of such intense public rituals is the tendency for the purified individual to internalize their role to some degree, even after the physical torment ceases. The psychological impact can be so profound that the individual continues to see themselves through the lens of the ritual, affecting their self-worth and social interactions for years. You might find yourself subtly flinching from touch, or instinctively drawing your shoulders inward, as if still encased in the bindings. You are not shunned violently, but a subtle distance now exists between you and the other villagers. Children stare. Hushed whispers follow your every move. The adults, while perhaps grateful for your sacrifice, avoid direct eye contact. You are the man who carried the curse, the father of barrenness. Your name, your identity, becomes secondary to this strange, unforgettable experience. You are offered a place to live, food to eat, but you are not truly welcomed back into the fold of daily life. You exist on the fringes, a living monument to a dark time, a reminder of the desperate lengths to which a community would go to ensure its survival. The phantom weight in your abdomen persists for weeks, a ghost of the bindings, a testament to the psychological conditioning you underwent. Even when you are alone, the sensation lingers, a constant echo of your ordeal. You find solace only in the quiet solitude, away from the knowing glances and the hushed tones. Your dreams are still troubled, filled with distorted images of the masked figures, the binding ropes, and the unsettling sensation of something growing within you. You are a survivor, yes, but forever altered, forever carrying the invisible scars of a punishment you wouldn't believe. The practice of men being forced to undergo symbolic pregnancies eventually faded from history, a strange and unsettling footnote in humanity's long quest for understanding and control over the natural world. As knowledge of biology advanced and societies developed more sophisticated means of dealing with perceived misfortunes, such desperate and ritualistic solutions gradually lost their hold. The bizarre spectacle you endured became obsolete, replaced by more rational, albeit sometimes equally harsh, forms of justice and societal regulation. Yet, the echoes of such dark traditions linger, whispers in the annals of time that remind us of the incredible power of belief and the lengths to which communities would go when faced with profound anxieties. The stories of men forced into grotesque imitations of life serve as a stark reminder of human vulnerability, both to the forces of nature and to the collective will of a superstitious society. You can almost feel a faint phantom ache in your own abdomen as you contemplate the lingering shadows of that bygone era. A well-documented historical trend is the decline of many extreme ritualistic practices as organized religions and scientific understanding offered alternative explanations for natural phenomena and societal challenges. The move from purely magical thinking to more codified belief systems or empirical observation slowly rendered such rituals redundant. A fascinating, if somewhat chilling, detail about the last vestiges of these practices is how they sometimes morphed into forms of public shaming or folklore, losing their original sacred meaning but retaining an element of terror or social control. Perhaps the last memory of your ordeal was passed down as a cautionary tale, a dark fable whispered to disobedient children. You, the survivor of this incredible ordeal, exist now only in the collective memory of history, a silent testament to a world you can scarcely comprehend. The dust of ages has settled on the reed hut, the sacred grove, and the faces of the masked figures. The desperate chants have long since faded into the wind, but the imprint of that experience, the sensation of the bindings, the psychological weight of the imposed delusion, remains a vivid, if imagined, scar. You can now truly relax, knowing that such a bizarre and cruel fate is confined to the distant past, a story from the fringes of human experience. The air around you is still, safe, and free from the suffocating presence of ancient fears. The only weight you carry now is the gentle embrace of your blankets, the only pressure, the soft throb of your own peaceful heart. The darkness around you is not the oppressive gloom of a reed hut, but the comforting cloak of night. Now, let your mind drift away from the echoes of that strange, dark history. Feel the tension ease from your body, starting from your toes, moving up through your legs, your chest, and finally releasing from your shoulders and the back of your neck. Take a deep, slow breath in, holding it for a moment, and then slowly exhale, letting go of any lingering thoughts or worries. Imagine yourself floating on a calm, quiet lake, surrounded by soft moonlight. The water is still, reflecting the gentle glow of the stars above. There's nothing to do, nowhere to be, just this moment of peace. Feel the quiet hum of your room, a gentle, soothing presence. Let your eyelids grow heavy, your muscles relax, and your mind grow still. You are safe, you are comfortable, and the journey into the strange past is complete. Drift into a deep, peaceful sleep, knowing that the morning will bring a fresh start. Sweet dreams.